Welcome to another jam-packed episode of the Sports Card Nation podcast, the show that brings you all the important news from the sports card hobby. We'll have some debates, opinions, new release schedules, and info. Plus, we'll also discuss the sports that so directly affect the hobby we all love. We'll mix in an occasional gambling tip or two, throw in some life stuff, and bring you great guest interviews from the hobby and sports dignitaries. And if you're good listeners, we may even give away a few things now and then. Now, here's the guy who wanted the cards and not the gum, John Newman.
Hello, Newman.
And hello. Episode 26 of the Sports Card Nation podcast. Really excited to have the guest we have on the guest line today, Stu Stone, writer, director, actor out of Toronto, Canada. Has too many credits to list, just IMDb him. You'll see what he's been in. But he's here today to talk about his new release, Jack of All Trades, a biography of his life growing up as a son of a card mogul and his return to the hobby, and he's surprised at what he finds. And then it goes from there. It's really a great film. It shows him visiting the Beckett offices, Topps offices. Jose Canseco's in it. Really, it's 86 minutes, and I tell you, I kind of wanted more even after it was done, and I tell you, it was enjoyable. I think you'll enjoy it too if you're in the hobby, and I think even if you're not in the hobby, it's one of those movies. I think it draws you in and brings you in and captures you that way. So I'm going to recommend you see it. It's called Jack of All Trades. I'll have Stu on here in a little bit, and we're going to talk about the movie. We're going to talk about the hobby too. You'll see in the movie, if you watch it, he was out of the hobby for almost 2 decades, and now he'll tell you he's kind of coming back, and things that have changed and all that. So we'll kind of talk about the state of the hobby. We'll kind of go reminisce back. We're similar aged. I'm a little older, but we'll reminisce about where we were 30 years ago and where the hobby is now too. So it was one of my most fun interviews to do. I love all the interviews I do. I appreciate everyone's time. And this one was really fun to do. Stu was great, and I think you'll enjoy it as well. Also going to do another giveaway this week. He's back. He's back in the lineup for the Anaheim Angels, Shohei Ohtani. And we have a 3-card rookie lot to give away to a lucky listener this week. It will be 3 cards: his Bowman rookie from 2018, his Diamond Kings batting rookie from 2018, and obviously also from 2018, his Donruss, or I should say Optic, rated rookie, the running variation. So the running variation. So the one lucky listener is going to get all 3 cards. I'll tell you how to do it during that portion of the show later on. So again, jam-packed, great episode. We try to bring you great content every week, and I think we got it done this week. So without any further ado,
And here we go.
all right, it's time for What's Crackin'. All right, let's start off with the hobby release schedule. So on May 22nd, 2019, Panini Legacy Football will hit the streets. Also on that day, 2018-19, Topps Chrome UEFA Champions League Soccer. Also that same day, Topps Pro Debut Baseball, minor league, 2019, Topps Pro debut, minor league baseball. That's a mouthful. Again, same day, 22nd's a huge release day. Topps 2019 WWE Undisputed Wrestling. Also that day, 2018-19 Upper Deck Ingrained Hockey. Same day, 2019 Rittenhouse Game of Thrones Inflection. So the 22nd got a little something for everybody. Non-sports, wrestling, hockey, baseball, soccer, football. Almost covered everything. No basketball that day, but plenty of everything else. On the 24th is 2019 Leaf Valiant Football. And I got to say with Leaf, guys, I know they're not the mainstream product, but they really do make some nice looking cards. I know they're not licensed, and they're kind of like Panini Light, if you will, but their designs and some of their stuff's really, really nice looking. I wish they were a little more accepted hobby-wide. Maybe someday they'll get there. Maybe they're inching a little bit closer with each passing year. I hope for their sake. I think they do have some good products. I just think, not enough collectors are really embracing them and their releases yet. I know they're selling product and products moving, and we talked about this, a couple of, last episode. The breaking industry has really put every product on the map. I think these companies are still really owe a lot of their business, obviously, to the breaking aspect of the hobby. Leaf probably fits in that category as well. But I'd love to see, them get a little bit more mainstream. I think what has to happen for that to really happen is, these companies it can't just be Topps having exclusive licenses and Panini having the other ones. We got to have more companies involved and more competition. With more competition, folks, we're going to have each company pushing each other to make better products, better values for consumers, and give people some options. And when there are options, stuff gets better. And right now, I think that's the one downside of just having Topps do all of this and Panini do all of that, and Upper Deck do hockey, and Leaf just kind of make their own versions of things. I think, it'd be nice some days this market opens up a little bit more and these companies can really show what they can do.
There's a deep drive to center field. Get up, ball. Get out of here. And gone. Home run number 1 for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He said, my hands are feeling quicker. My bat is feeling quicker. I'm going to pick out one pitch, and I'm going to let it go. And boy, did he ever let it go. Swing and a drive. Get up, ball. Get out of here. And gone. A 2-homer night for Vladdy Jr.
Austin Riley.
2-1 pitch. Swing and a drive. Ball to deep left center. He's got a homer.
So it looks like the youth movement in baseball's in full effect. Vladdy took a little bit, but looks like he's figuring things out. He's here. 2-home run game the other night. Austin Riley delivers in his first major league game. It's his first major league home run. Keston Hiura is called up in Milwaukee, and we've got guys about to make their debuts all across the league. So hobbyists, baseball fans, be warned. The youth movement's being served. These guys are making their presence known pretty quickly, and that's a great thing for the hobby. And in all sports, we've got a lot of young players in baseball not only making their debuts at 18, 19, 20 years old, but performing like veterans and playing well. We've got in basketball, we had one of the best rookie classes in a while. with Doncic, Trae Young, Bagley, Ayton, Briggs, and I left off people, I'm sure. And football, you've heard me on this show say 2018 was in my estimation, the best rookie class ever. And in hockey, you got the first 2 picks slated to be can't miss guys, and Hughes and Gakko. So, and you got the basketball class for next year highlighted by Zion Williamson, but you got John Morant, you got R.J. Barrett, Reddish, all the Duke guys, and so basketball's primed for another great rookie year. So where am I going with all this? If you're in the hobby, it's a great time to be here. There's a lot of great prospects here and on the horizon. That, whether you like Gary Vee or not, I think he is right. I think the next 3, 5, maybe longer, the hobby's primed to really go where it's not been in a long time, and these young prospects are going to get that done, get the hobby where it needs to go. And if you're on that fence thinking about jumping in the yard and playing, I can't think of, honestly, a better time than now, because when you have this many young prospects, young stars coming up and playing right away and playing well right away, these products that you open are at its peak. So if you're going to come in and buy product and open stuff and buy in the breaks and buy rookies, this is probably the peak time to do it. There's less chance for failure, if you will. I mean, everything is risky, but it's probably the best time to be involved right now in a long time. So, the future is bright for not even just cards, but even in these sports with this young influx of talent. It's I tell you what, I'm excited just talking about it. It's fun to watch, and every day you never know who's next and what's going to happen next. So fun times await in the hobby. Deep fried breaks. Card breaks served with a side of Southern hospitality. Come hit some deep fried fire. Right now it's all about Bowman at Deep Fried Breaks, and they're hitting it hard. They like to mix it up with current products and fun classics, the best of both worlds. They have all the best release night breaks, and you won't find a more approachable breaker in the industry. He's glad to help anyone, whether it's their first break or their 1000th break. Free shipping and great selection. Deep Fried Breaks has everything you need when you're looking for that break. Check out Deep Fried Breaks at deepfriedbreaks.com. All right, real excited for my next guest here on the Sports Card Nation guest line. Numerous credits. He's an actor, a director, appeared in films such as Donnie Darko, The Boys Club, MTV's Blowing Up with Jamie Kennedy. But recently he just did a documentary that centers around the baseball cards and the baseball card industry. You might have heard of it. If not, go look it up. Go watch it. The film is called Jack of All Trades. I just seen it. It's an excellent film. We're going to talk about that amongst other things. But I'm glad he's made some time for us. He's a pretty busy guy. His name is Stu Stone. He hails from Toronto. And I'd like to welcome Stu to the Sports Card Nation podcast. Welcome, Stu.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. And thank you for your kind words about the film. And, any support is great support, but especially within the sports card community, a platform like yours is an honor for me to be on it. Put it that way. We're all very excited to be able to have this opportunity.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, Stu. Like I said, excellent film. You could have said, "Hey, I don't want to talk to you." It wouldn't have changed my opinion on the film itself. So that's not just lip service. What motivated you to do the film? Was it one thing? Was it, what caused this to take off and happen?
Well, I can tell you that, growing up, my family business was baseball cards. Like, my father owned a chain of stores that by 1990 there was like already 11 locations, and baseball cards were my entire life until right around 91, 92. My dad got out of the business, and that was the end of baseball cards for me. Fast forward to 20 years later, when my grandfather passed away. In his basement, they found like a bunch of boxes of mine that must have been put away back in like the late 80s, early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And right away, without even opening them, like I was thinking, I was a pretty big collector back then. You can only imagine like the collection that I must have had. And I thought, like, you know what, we should film me opening these boxes, because I bet you there's going to be, treasures inside. Because, back in the day, like I remember my dad used to tell stories that he went and found his old childhood stuff, and he found like a Superman #1 Action Comics in it.
Yeah.
The Mickey Mantle cards. And, it sort of like turned into like changed his life finding that stuff. So I thought, this might be like a repeat of history, and my whole MO was, let's, get some friends together, get some cameras, and let's film. I'm going to go to my mom's place, fly there, and let's open up these boxes and see what's inside. I had a hunch that there'd be some amazing baseball cards, but obviously I hadn't opened those boxes since I'm a kid. I don't know exactly what's in there, so I was just really excited to get them open, and sure enough, inside there definitely was. My whole collection from when I was a kid was all there. It was amazing. So that's kind of what sparked the idea of this film. And when I went to kind of go try to find out the market value on what these old cards were worth, it was a little bit shocking to me.
Yeah.
And that sort of opened the floodgate for like, hey, this could make a movie, because I'm sure there's a lot of people like me that used to collect when they were kids and put their cards away, and they're going to wonder what the hell happened.
Yeah, we have sort of similar backgrounds, Stu. I'm older than you are by 8 years, but I definitely was involved during those same time period, and obviously we shared a lot of the same cards that we know from that era. And I had a store myself here in New York State for 4 years, and then eBay came along and kind of put a little bit of a kibosh on that. But were you surprised at all?
It used to be a real.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm going to say this on to your point. I mean, you used to own a store, so you know how amazing the business was.
Yeah.
I mean, the hobby was as big as you could imagine. Like every kid collected cards. There was something for everybody. Yep. It wasn't just like baseball and football and basketball and hockey cards. There was garbage pail kids. There was something for everybody to collect.
Yep.
And the baseball card shop would be the only place that you could get them. So, prices for cards could even fluctuate depending on what market you were in. So, if you were in New York State, I'm sure, Don Mattingly cards were, going for a pretty penny.
Yeah.
Whereas, in Toronto, Blue Jays players would have been going for a lot of money. And, you only could get whatever they had at the baseball card shop. So, when eBay came around, obviously that would have changed it, not just for baseball cards, but for a lot of businesses and collectibles in general. Like with eBay now, the baseball card store is everywhere.
Yep.
And you could find anything. And so it sort of changes the whole thing. I mean, I think we're lucky that there's even still, this is obviously jumping around now, but I think we're lucky that there's even still baseball cards have even survived to where they have now, which I'm very happy about. And they've made it so that they could survive. With the addition of adding autographs and whatnot onto the cards to make them even more like collectible pieces, because you can't, music, you saw what happened with music. People used to go to the record store and you'd have something tangible you can hold in your hand, go home and play. That's now just a file.
Yep.
You used to have to leave your house to go see the movie, and now it's just a file. Everything's just a file.
Yeah.
So what's to stop the baseball card from just being a file? Well, this is how it is. You can't download an autograph.
Yeah.
And you can't download a piece of a player's jersey or whatever, a relic or a patch or all that other stuff that they put in the cards these days. But the autograph is really the most exciting thing, and that is something that you'll never be able to download. So I'm really happy that cards have survived the test of time. yeah, I mean, eBay definitely took a toll on a lot of shops. At one point, there were 10,000 baseball card shops registered in North America, and now you would be hard pressed to even find one in your neighborhood.
Yep.
If any.
You're right. It's funny. I'm in the Syracuse, New York area, Stu, and we have one left. And I'll give you a little backstory. The one that's left is a gentleman who's retired, and he literally owns the building, so he doesn't actually have overhead. I have a venture to guess that if he had some overhead, he may not be there. I hate to say it like that, but truth be told.
I mean, the hobby is still alive, and it has evolved in ways that have sort of gone along with the technology. And I'm sure I don't really need to tell you, but these breakers stuff that's going on now. You got online communities of people that are opening packs as groups together. There's on Facebook, there's all sorts of different groups that you can join and trade in and post about it. So there's still very much a hobby, but I don't think it will ever top those years that we're talking about in this movie and in general for those of us who were around during the era. But it was the golden era.
Yeah.
For kids, it was great because there was tons to do, tons of products. You couldn't wait for the second to come out. And for the vendors and the dealers and the card shop owners, you couldn't get your cards in fast enough. Everything was just flying off the shelf. So it was like a perfect storm. And, it lasted as long as it did. And I think whoever was a part of it was lucky enough to be a part of it, I guess, right?
Oh, yeah. It's like you said, it was the golden days. And, sometimes I'll be honest with you, you get sentimental, you get a little sad knowing you really can't, it'll never be like that again, and you can't go back, Back to the Future is just a movie with Michael J. Fox. So, but
I wish I had a DeLorean for it.
But you said something that is true. You mentioned breakers, and I actually last week's show actually was about breakers, and I said on that program that in my opinion, and I think others share the same thing, the breaking aspect of the hobby has kind of saved it. Because of a lot of products still getting opened, a lot of people who can't afford, as you probably know, some of these boxes now are 4 figures. I mean, think about when we were younger, 4 figures you could buy a case. Now it's a box with 7 cards literally, and it's not even, what we think of boxes of 36 packs and 12 cards a pack. A box now might be just 7 high-end cards in one pack, and it's got a 4-figure price tag on it. So it's a different era, and the breaking industry has I think allowed it to sustain and stay around, which is obviously, like you said, very important and a good thing, because I think I speak for both of us. We don't want it to obviously go away or become a dinosaur.
No.
So I got to ask you, Stu. I know he's in the movie. Jose Canseco. There's people who aren't baseball fans. If you say Jose Canseco, they'll generally it'll arise a reaction to you. Did you know him prior at all, or was that your first interaction with him?
No, that was my first time meeting him, and Jose Canseco was probably as big as it gets. From, if you look at the boom period, of 84 to 90, we'll say, the real heart of it would have been maybe 87 to 89, 90. There was arguably no bigger star than Jose Canseco. The guy was crushing home runs, winning World Series, hitting 40-40. He dated Madonna. He was a superstar. And also, even just back then, athletes, baseball players in particular, were household names back then. All these great superstars like, Don Mattingly and Darryl Strawberry and Doc Gooden and Jose Canseco and Bo Jackson. You can't leave out Bo Jackson.
Yep.
These were household names back then. And Jose Canseco was probably the biggest of the big. Ken Griffey Jr., obviously.
Yeah.
But the Jose Canseco rookie card changed the whole world, and trying to pull that from a pack, that was like one of the original chase cards of that era. And just getting a chance to kind of sit with Jose Canseco and sort of talk about baseball cards with him was like a dream come true for like a young collector. I would have never imagined that I would be able to sit with Jose Canseco and talk about baseball cards.
Here you are. here you are looking at his card, and then you're in his living room, literally, years later, talking about the card you're trying to pull. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, he had a lot of perspective too on the cards, and obviously in our movie, due to the fact that there's time restrictions on our movie, and you got to edit the movie, so Jose Canseco, I was in reality with him for about 2.5 hours talking.
Yeah.
And what you saw, whatever made it to the movie, but he had a lot of great insight and told me some really cool stories about, taking the pictures for his first baseball card, and how it felt to have a baseball card, and what his thoughts were on Eric Plunk, the man that shared his 86 rookie card with him.
Yep.
So maybe one day I'll be able to release all of that footage as like a podcast or something, so everybody can kind of see the full conversation that I had with Canseco. But he was definitely the man, and he's definitely a misunderstood individual who does a lot of crazy, wild stuff to get attention online, or I don't know what he does, but sitting with him one-on-one in his home was surreal and as good as it gets, man. It was so cool.
Well, I can tell you, being in my living room watching it was enjoyable. So I gotta imagine it's tenfold or more, 100-fold actually being you and being in that moment. So yeah, no doubt.
He still looks like he could hit 70 home runs.
I was gonna say. He's got to be in his 50s, and seeing him, on the screen, he did not look like your average 50-year-old man.
No, he looks like he could still get him. He could probably still knock a few out of the park if he wanted to.
Yeah, no doubt. In the movie, you kind of go back to your old stomping grounds, your old haunts, and the show. Were you surprised that even after that many years that people still knew you through you and then with your dad, even after that many years, being away from the hobby?
It was shocking, to be honest with you. And when I went to a card show, it was a really big card show that was going on in the Toronto area. That there was probably 1,000 tables at this place, and I saw so many familiar faces of guys that were still in the business, still going after all these years, which was shocking. And at the same time, it was awesome. But they're still going. And, a lot of those guys wouldn't necessarily recognize me if I didn't go up to them and tell them who I was, because obviously I would have been 10 years old when they saw that. It was a trip down memory lane. And my father, to his credit, he was really ahead of the curve when it came to this, to the hobby exploding, and he got in really early and was one of the first guys to, sort of open up a shop and just sell baseball cards, and people thought he was crazy. And, he had the foresight to see ahead that this was going to be huge, and he was right. And I guess he also had the foresight to sort of know when to get out.
Yeah.
Something that I don't know how he knew that, but somehow he got out, and he got in on time, he got out on time. So he did something right there. But I guess the impact that he had on the hobby, especially on this side of the border, a lot of people still know him, whether they have good things to say about him or bad things to say about him. More often than not, people had only good memories of him, which was good, I have good memories of him. So it's it falls in line with that. My memories that I have weren't wrong. He really was a great guy. All of those people sort of reiterate that.
Yeah, and that it kind of brought.
The guy that.
Yep, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it's even in the film, we have it in the movie, but a bunch of people that did business with him. I was shocked when they were telling me stories of. I don't want to ruin the movie, but it was just really crazy having interactions with people that I knew when I was a kid that I ran into at that show, and the things that they had to say about my father and stuff like that. So, anyway, it was wild. What were you going to say?
Well, I just said it kind of brought it full circle, and it just shows you that even with the hobby having peaks and valleys, that there's still a lot of constant there, and that's what the hobby's all about, is that community that it is.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I still get the same feeling today opening a pack of cards that I would have had when I was 8 years old. That doesn't change. It's the principles behind what makes the hobby exciting, they still exist. They just cost more money.
I was going to say, and it's a little more money, but you're right.
Don't know what's inside of a pack. I think it's kind of really great for people our age because, if you haven't been collecting in a while and you want to go back and get stuff that you had when you were a kid, it's not going to cost you a fortune to do that. I mean, you could get a box of 1987 Topps cards for, $40, $50, even cheaper.
Yeah, I was going to say less than that.
And you can crack packs and get that feeling that you had. So in a way, it's pretty cool. But I was going to tell you, there could be this whole history repeats itself full circle type of thing happening now, which is that baseball cards could be back on the map in a huge way again. And I believe that might be the case. And I've been saying this for a couple of years now. I know there's other popular pundits out there that are sort of saying the same thing now, but I've been on this for a while, and my theory is that the age demographic that we were in the 80s collecting cards, we were going in with our dads who were there trying to sell and hawk their Mickey Mantle cards that they found in their closet.
Yep.
Or they were going back to try to find their old Mickey Mantle cards or their old, baseball cards and stuff from when they were a kid. Well, now, you fast forward to 20, 30 years later, we're the same age. And, generally speaking, the kids our generation has kids that are the same age as we were. And we're now going to go look back and try to find our old King Griffey Juniors and our old Canseco's and Bo Jacksons. And, there happens to be a great pool of young talent in the league right now that you could make great comparisons to that same era of superstars. You got lots of superstars that are playing in the game that are young and exciting. And, Mike Trout is a perfect example. Is Aaron Judge, Stanton, Acuna, Ohtani, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I mean, there's all sorts of players that you can collect now if you're a kid. And the cards you're going to pull now is even better than the ones that we pulled because it's going to have their autograph on it.
And
the hobby could make a huge comeback just based on that nostalgia factor of parents wanting to go back and sort of find their old crap, and the kids being excited about the new product.
Yep, I agree with you 100%.
Father will always be able to connect the bond. A father and son will always be able to bond over baseball.
Yep.
I mean, most of the time anyway. But, a father going into a baseball card shop and his kid getting excited about wanting to buy baseball cards, well, father's not going to want to encourage that. They're going to want him to play Fortnite or look at their iPad or collect baseball cards.
Nope, you're exactly right. And I think you hit it right on the head with the new crop of young players. And I think you even mentioned us now kind of coming back and grabbing those Griffeys and Canseco's and Bo Jacksons. And now what we didn't have then, as you probably know, Stu, is now you can grade the card. So now back then we were just happy to get the card. Now we want to get that PSA 10 or that graded 10 version of it. And so it's got a new element to it.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's a whole crazy thing. Well, I mean, that's sort of the saving grace of value for the cards of that era they may have been produced in the millions, but how many of them are a 10?
Yep.
So that sort of sort of knocks down that number a lot and sort of helps you sort of maintain some of that value. I don't have too many graded cards in my collection. I still have a bunch of raw cards. And I'm sure if I was doing it on sort of investment level, I would probably, if you don't have a 10, what's the point of getting it graded? But I've seen a lot of questionable stuff on the grading side too.
Yeah.
I want to preface by saying I went down to the offices. I went and met with Beckett, and they were phenomenal people to deal with. They were so cool, so friendly. Gave me a tour of the whole place. In the final product of the film, you see very little of what happened on that trip down to Beckett, just due to edit restraints and time restraints that I had. But if I could have devoted more time to anything in the movie, it would have definitely been my visit to Beckett. It was so cool being down there, picking their brain, sort of seeing their process of how they even price cards. But they also have a whole grading facility there. And it was like Fort Knox, man. It was crazy. The stuff that was going in there and coming out of there and the science behind it. There was no BS. So I take my hat off to Beckett, who they managed to pivot from selling magazines as being their main sort of bread and butter, and they've managed to pivot and become, grading seems to be their bread and butter these days.
Yeah.
And to them for being able to evolve.
Yeah.
That being said, and I'm not going to say this about Beckett, this has nothing to do with Beckett. This is just to do with grading in general. But I've seen stories of certain cards achieving 10s that it's impossible for cards like that to achieve a 10. And I'm speaking specifically about, I saw a story about a Wayne Gretzky rookie card that was a 10, and it was sold for like hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, like, there's no way for a Wayne Gretzky card to get a 10, technically. There's no way, because of the way that the cards were cut in 1979 on, like, box cutters with, like, cheap cardboard. There's, like, no way to have a perfectly centered and perfectly edged Wayne Gretzky rookie. There's just no way to do it. Unless, in modern era, you find an uncut sheet and you use like a laser printer and like cut it out of a sheet yourself.
Yeah.
So that truly a 10 Gretzky, I guess technically speaking it's a 10, but it wasn't pulled out of a pack that way. So
no.
And I'm read stories of the other ways to manipulate cards and whatnot, and I like to trust what I saw over at Beckett. I don't think that I think that they've got a good handle on that, but just in general, it's a little bit strange to be seeing like these older cards being able to achieve perfect scores when like there's no way. It's like not possible for a card like that to be pulled out of a pack like that.
Yeah, it's a great point. It's a head scratcher. Like you said, maybe it's someone got an uncut sheet and just meticulously made sure to cut that perfectly, and then that begs the question: is that really? Is it an artificial 10? Is it a genuine 10? It's not out of a pack 10. How do you classify it? There's been rumors of other shady stuff. We could do a whole program on that alone. But you really don't know. You like to give everyone the benefit of the doubt. But this, Stu, when it comes to money and finances, if someone can manipulate something to make more money, it's either going to happen or someone's going to try it at least.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, like the whole idea of like blindly putting your valuable cards in the mail and sending them somewhere, only to have like that card left slapped and sent back to you. You don't even know if it's the same card that you sent them. It's like, and I'm not saying that people do that. I guess you just have to have faith in the process.
Yeah,
it just sounds crazy to me. Like I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, it's a trust thing. It's funny. I remember grading kind of first came out when I was the last few years in my store, and when I heard about it, I like you, I was like, we don't need that. I can look at the card myself and tell you what's wrong or not wrong with it. And then you're gonna send your card and pay someone to tell you what you can kind of determine yourself. So I was on the anti side of the anti-grading. And I can tell you, years later, I've had a change of heart, but I can make arguments truthfully for both sides. If it was up for debate.
Listen, I mean, I've been like sucked into a black hole on YouTube before for hours, living in mindless watching videos of like showing their like Griffies. They just got their mail back and they sent like 20 Griffies to get graded, and like they're all 8s and 7s, and they're so disappointed the guys in the videos.
Yeah.
But obviously, like I said, it's like sort of trying. It's a way to sort of correct maybe some of the flaws of the hobby back in our day by this is an attempt to sort of create collecting something, and everybody's putting it in plastic. That's like the first red flag, where it's like everybody's got a Griffey, and everybody's Griffey is in a plastic. So everybody's got a good condition griffey. It's not like when your parents are Mickey Mantle and nobody saved them, and everybody who did have them like treated them like crap. It's like anybody who collected cards and was an educated collector. Even with comic books, they were putting comic books right into with a cardboard box, cardboard backing, and right into the sleeve. So everybody's got one. So it sort of eliminates a lot of that rarity. But back then, when there's only one baseball card shop that you're riding your bike to, it is rare because you don't know how many people have them, and it's only your neighborhood that know about. There isn't like 10 Griffies coming out of a box. So if you put out a box of 89 Upper Deck on your shop on the shelf, and kids are coming in there and buying it, maybe one or two kids is going to pull a Griffey, and it's like the same as the casino. The casino loves it when somebody hits a jackpot on a slot. It makes everybody want to play more.
Yep.
So people pull out those Griffies, and then the next thing that happens is everybody else is going to go and want to buy more packs, and it's just it's great. I mean, it's great for business, and it's sort of is bad for kids because it teaches us to be gamblers.
Yeah.
And I definitely like gambling, so it definitely works.
Well,
in a lot of ways, it is like gambling.
Yeah, it is. I think we all inherently, I don't want to say all, I think a lot of us, just human nature, have a little bit of that kind of gambling instinct, It gets your adrenaline pumping. I mean, who doesn't, people do different things to get their adrenaline pumping, but the common denominator is you want your adrenaline pumping. So I think gambling and that aspect, even in the card hobby, buying into a break to hopefully hit something, or buying an expensive pack, hoping to hit that one card that everyone's trying to get. I think it feeds right into that adrenaline rush, whatever it is. If you're an actor, director, you get that from maybe that. If you're a drummer in a band, you get it from being behind that drum kit. Whatever it is, it's that adrenaline rush.
100%.
So I want to bring it back to the film.
And most people wouldn't.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say most people wouldn't associate baseball. I was going to say most people wouldn't associate baseball card collecting with like adrenaline junkies, but I think we've just proved new ground here that there's no bigger adrenaline junkie than the baseball card collector.
Well, either that or it's just me, Stu.
No, I'm with you, man.
So, bringing it back to the film, Stu, obviously I don't want to give away, the plot line because we want everyone to see it's an excellent film. We either want, we want them to watch it. But the scene towards the end, I'll just speak in generic terms. How difficult was that to do, and was it more difficult being it was on camera than if it wouldn't have been off camera? Like, how did that play into it?
Well, I would say, just to answer your question, cameras definitely changed the whole dynamic of everything. I think if there wasn't cameras, then maybe it wouldn't have happened at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think that, having cameras there sort of took me out of the moment a little bit too, and gave me sort of like, not only am I like in the moment as a human being, but I'm also like, are they getting this shot? It's like I'm thinking in my head, are they getting it?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, the difficult part for me wasn't just, and what he's alluding to is that, like, in the, later on in the film, if you guys watch it, the movie sort of gets a little bit crazy, and we get put into a really overly personal kind of situation that I don't want to spoil if you haven't watched the movie yet. But I'll tell you this, movie making is a very, very difficult task, especially when you're dealing with a subject as personal as this was for me. Because not only did I go through what I went through, not only did I film what I went through, but then to like edit that meant I had to like live with it for so many more times just to get it to that place. And now the movie's out, and I have to like relive it every time the movie's on, and I have to relive something that I speak about my whole life every time I talk to anybody. So it became something that like I didn't speak about ever, didn't think about rarely, to something that's like dominating the last 6 months of my life. Have been dominated by this, and in a way it's been a little bit cathartic. I'm sure it's been good, but it's also drummed up a lot of mixed emotions too. It's tough. It's really tough. I'm not claiming that I had an easy ride And I know that there are people that had it way harder than I had it. So I'm not here trying to gain sympathy from anybody. I'm just telling my story, and it's different than everybody else's story. And, you know, it's tough, man. It's just like, it just makes you think that when you like look around at everybody's got a story. Everybody's got family bullshit, and everybody's got issues and stuff that they're dealing with. It's not just you. It's not just me. Like, literally everybody has stuff. And, you know, I realized that more and more. It made me more self-aware of everybody just by going through this journey. Even when we had screenings and we were playing the film at some festivals, you'd be surprised how many people would come up to me after the movie that just felt like telling me their story. Like, oh, my God, I love it. And, you know, my dad did this, and I had an uncle that did this, or my mom was a this, and that. You know, it's like they want to tell me their story.
Yeah.
So it sort of it was something that I never would have expected from what we were setting out to make, which is a baseball card documentary, and turn it into this sort of thing that like lets people sort of reflect on their own lives after watching it. It's become a really powerful movie. In a way, it's been a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because it's such a powerful piece of film for me to even. It's just a way different movie than I wanted to make, but it's fucking part of my language, but it's just so much more powerful than it could have ever been this way. It's a blessing and a curse, and the curse is that, like, it's difficult for us to promote a movie like this because is baseball cards enough for baseball card lovers? Is it drama enough to be for drama people? What is it? It's hard to kind of put it in a box. To me, the core movie is about baseball cards and a family that was in the baseball card industry, and it has like a, you know, sort of a left-hand turn that takes place in the movie. But most good documentaries, that's what happens anyway. Yep. And, you know, we got lucky enough that that's what happened here.
Well, I'll use a baseball term. You know, when you know, I think you hit it right on the head with the drama part and the hobby part. I think you hit a home run really on both fronts. I think anyone that, again, without just talking generically, that last scene towards the end of the film may inspire, you know, others to maybe, you know, rekindle or look at scenarios or situations they're in and maybe decide to do something that they wouldn't have without watching the film, is crazy as that might sound. And it's probably something you weren't, I imagine, you really weren't thinking that during, you know, when this movie was, you know, this idea was being developed, like you said, really based on on your family's history in the card industry. And then it turned into kind of something else along with that, which I think that's the brilliance of the film right there.
I mean, I appreciate it, man. You definitely get it, and I wish there was like 10,000 views out there because then we would be having like a different conversation. We'd be celebrating popping bottles. But we are still very much like one of those best-kept secret type of movies. And, you know, the people who have discovered it have, for the most part, really enjoyed it like you have. And, you know, the reason why I'm able to come on to shows like yours and go onto, you know, social media with this is to try to get the word out there. And that's part of the fight in the film business anyway, is to try to, you know, when you're just like a little engine, you need to try to make as much noise as you can. I think overall, I went to a baseball card convention recently, and I ran into some of this kind of people in the industry who, on the manufacturer side, who have seen the movie, and some of them weren't too happy with me. I personally feel like it's more of a love letter to the industry than an expose, because I'm not telling anyone who collects, I'm not telling them anything they don't already know. Yeah. And I definitely didn't reveal as much about a certain company as I could have. And I didn't do that at the time because I'm not trying to bury anybody. But we all know that I barely scratched the surface of what I could have said about companies. And I didn't do that because all of the people who work there now weren't there 20 years ago. Yep. So this has nothing to do with them. They didn't do it. Yep. And, you know, so if anything, it makes people watch it and get nostalgic and want to go look for their baseball card. Yeah. It helps business. And I very much love the business. And if you can't tell that, then you're watching the wrong movie, because I have on our social media handles, which is on Instagram, we have a page, Jack of All Trades Doc, and we're on Twitter and Facebook as well. But every day we're posting baseball cards up there and engaging with people and just doing things sort of increase the excitement around the hobby. So very much pro hobby, very much proud of that era, and I still remember all the, I can still open a pack of from that era and know exactly who the players are without even looking at the name.
Yep.
It comes right back to coming to an old pack, you know what I mean? So it's really great. It's been bittersweet for me, and being able to get back into the hobby in this kind of way has been really great. And I've definitely made a lot of new friends along the way, yourself included.
I appreciate that.
Even just, guys like Tom Guidman, who was the guy who created the Good Junior Rookie,
Yep.
has become a really good friend of mine. And it's just so cool just to talk cards with this guy.
Yep.
And he's introduced me to, the photographers from back in the day at Fleer, the guy who took the Billy Ripken picture. I got to talk to him and ask him questions. And, the people who are running Leaf cards now are great guys. One of the guys he was an employee of back in the day. So I've made some, and the guys at Topps were phenomenal. They treated me like gold, and I love them.
Yep.
And it's been just really cool getting back into it. And even though you see in the movie what I did with my collection, don't think for a million years that I haven't restarted my collection, because I have.
Yep.
And I went right back in and started collecting again. Once a collector, always a collector.
Yeah, I think it's in their blood. And that being said, Stu, watching the film, and it'll be a movie I watch again as well. I told you online that my son plans on watching it, and I'm going to be right next to him with some popcorn watching it again. But I don't feel you owe any company in the industry any apology. Like you said, I think you really shine more of a positive light on it than anything else, So if someone, took something the wrong way, or their perception of it, maybe, perception's not always reality either. So maybe they just, not taking something out of context or what have you. I don't feel you like you said, you probably could have went in a different direction if you really wanted to go that way, and you took the high road. So I don't think you owe any of these companies an apology, and frankly, if I may be so bold, and they seem to be very accommodating, they probably should thank you if they haven't already. So
I appreciate it, man. I wish that they would all think like you, and maybe some of them will come to think of that. I've had mostly good interactions with people in the industry. There's been just a handful of unpleasant reactions that I've had since the movie's come out. But like I said, I'm standing behind my work. And like you said, if I really wanted to do a smear piece on the industry, I could have done that. And that's not what this is.
Yeah, and
this is more of a love letter to the industry and an education into some mistakes that happened back then, mistakes that have hopefully been corrected now. The hobby's obviously still alive, so it's not dead. And, I'm still very much a fan of it. So, I guess that's the takeaway. Hopefully people will hear this interview and they'll want to watch it.
Yeah, I hope, and it's going to be something. I'm not just saying this, Stu. I'm definitely going to promote the film as any chance possible, whether it be talking to someone in person, social media. I think it's a film and I'll say this, I don't think you have to be a baseball card collector or a dealer or a hobbyist to really enjoy watching the film. My wife didn't see it when I watched it, but I was talking to her about it, and she, her interest was piqued. So something tells me she'll be watching it as well. And I think that's what I hope. I think it's going to be one of those, and I hope this for you, Stu, one of those movies that just gains traction, some momentum, and, one people tell two people tell four, the deal, 4 tell 8, and yada, yada, yada. And this thing just kind of picks up steam as it goes along.
Hey, from your mouth to God's ear. That was the dream, man. And, and there's no better feeling of satisfaction than something that is organically, it gets support and a groundswell of support. And I think that ties really deeply into this hobby that we're speaking of, because back then we didn't have internet and we didn't have all of the access to information and people like we do now. And so in order for the baseball card hobby to blow up the way that it did, there had to be an organic groundswell of kids that found it so cool that we're spreading it around schoolyards and schoolyards and schoolyards and schoolyards and turning it into what it became. So, it's a beautiful thing. And thank you so much for having me here on the show. And I'm happy to come back and talk to you even more openly and candidly about some of the stuff in the movie after people have had a chance to see it. But I'll definitely be listening to your show and keeping up with the hobby. And, thank you so much for having us and for taking a liking to the movie.
Oh, Stu, no, thank you for, like I said, to give this much time and when you didn't have to. I mean that from, in all sincerity. So I want, Jack of All Trades is the film produced by Stu Stone from 5-7 Films, a film company he started with his brother-in-law. He has a lot of other projects. I'll let him give out any website information, but definitely check what 5-7 Films are doing. It's not as great as this film is. They have a lot of other projects too, and I'm sure if they're half as good as Jack of All Trades, they're very good as well. So, Stu, I'll let you kind of close it out with plug anything you want, appearances, the movie, other project, whatever you want to do.
Sure. Thank you so much. So you can definitely keep up with me on social media, Stu Stone, STUSTONE. I'm on everywhere. And Jack of All Trades has its own profiles that if you're a collector, you will definitely love it. Every day there's a new post of vintage memories, and Jack of All Trades or Baseball Card Doc is where you can find that. The movie Jack of All Trades is available on iTunes and wherever you stream movies. If you could be so kind and you've seen it to leave a review on iTunes or Amazon or IMDb or wherever you got it from, it would be a huge help to us. As far as 5-7 Films, you can check out our website, see some of the other movies we have. But we have some horror movies out there. We have a whole bunch of other new movies in the pipeline. And believe it or not, we're just getting started with baseball cards. We have a lot more baseball card hobby-related stuff that we're planning on doing. And we're just getting started here, man. So it's really exciting. And a shout-out to Matt Yanofsky, who does publicity and PR for not just me, but for the film. And he's been really spearheading the campaign to get people to, learn about this movie. And so I'm thankful to people like him and people like you and anybody else who supports the film. So thank you, etc. And may all of you pull Vladimir Guerrero Jr. rookie cards out of your packs, and hopefully he starts getting some hits, because it's getting a little crazy up here in Toronto, watching this kid struggle out of the gate. You better pick it up. Come on, Vladdy.
Are they panicking? there?
I mean, they're not panicking just yet because the Raptors are still playing basketball, but, if Vladdy doesn't start picking it up soon, it's going to start to get crazy over here. You better turn it around.
Well, I was going to say the Leafs are out of the Stanley Cup, so really all the eyes of Canada, like you said, between basketball and him, he's probably feeling a little bit of the pressure right now.
Oh, man, the pressure's about to be... If the Raptors, God forbid, get eliminated from this playoff, it's going to be all on Vladdy. He better hope they win the championship. But we're very excited in Toronto about Vladdy and the young Blue Jays, and there's a whole host of other second-generation talents coming up through the pipeline, guys who we collected the cards when we were younger. You got Bo Bichette. His father was Dante Bichette. He had his 1989 Upper Deck rookie card, Dante Bichette, same rookie class as Griffey Jr. You had Calvin Biggio.
Yep.
It was Craig Biggio's kid, that same 89 Upper Deck set. You have we had Roger Clemens has a son.
Yep.
He's in the system coming up. I think we had Dwight Smith's kid, but we traded him to Baltimore. But there's a lot of these generation talents that are coming up through the pipeline. Hopefully they'll turn into something, and the Jays will get back in their winning ways.
Yeah, I was going to say the Jays have three or four of those guys that you mentioned, all sons of former major league players.
It's crazy because like if you would have done break in the last, 2 years ago, it would be like getting a Blue Jays spot would be easy. Nobody wanted it. But now, because of Vladdy, like the Blue Jays spot, all of a sudden it's like the expensive spot to get.
Yeah, it's crazy how things change.
Yeah.
Well, Stu, yeah, go ahead. I don't want to cut you off.
No, I was gonna say, I'll be rooting for Syracuse in your honor next year in the big tournament. The Q's is in the house.
Yeah, and anytime you're here, give me a heads up. I'd love to meet you in person, or if vice versa. If I get to Toronto, which I've been to before, it's been a few years, but I was funny. I was telling my son the other day that I love Toronto. He's never been. I asked him, is your passport still good? Because I do want to get there sometime in the near future. So. Oh,
you should come catch a baseball game. It's probably like $5 to get in, and you can get wherever the hell you want.
Well, I don't know now with Vlad Jr., but it might have been. I don't know about anymore.
All right. Well, it's been a pleasure, and just a coincidence. You're John Newman, right?
I am.
So the guy who did all the music, all the great songs in my movie. His name is John Newman. Also,
I saw it. It's funny you mentioned that. When I watched the credits, Stu, and I saw that, and I thought, there's three of us because there was that basketball player from the Knicks, Johnny Newman. If you remember him.
Yeah.
So
that's a sign, man. It's a sign.
Yeah, and it's funny. Our birthdays are a week apart. You're November 17th, and I'm November 24th. So. There's a little.
There you go.
So, well, Stu, this has been an honor, a privilege, man. I appreciate. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. I'd love to have you back on, like you said, when we maybe could talk a little bit more specifics about the movie. And I know you mentioned maybe some future works, hobby wise in the pipeline. If when those are ready to come about, I'd love you to come back on, promote it. We'll hype them up and get the word out there.
It sounds great, man. Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Once again, thank you.
Excuse me. I'd like to ask you a few questions.
All right. So we changed the name of this segment from Open Mic to Wide Open. And what this segment is, folks, is it's an opportunity for you, the listener, or anyone out there to ask me a question on any of our social media platforms. I will pick a few questions each week, each show, read who they're from, and answer them as well. If you go to Anchor FM, where our home base, where the show is out of, there's actually a voice section there where you can almost leave like a voicemail message. If you go that route, we haven't had anyone do that yet, but if you go that route, I'll actually play your voice question to me and obviously answer it as well. We haven't had anyone do it via that method yet, but if you so choose, you can hear yourself on the air if that's something you want to hear. So the first question comes from Mike from Instagram, and his question is, what pitcher not in the big leagues is the next guy? And he put next in quotations, and I think he means next superstar, next real good pitcher, a Walker Buehler type guy, young guy who his body work isn't complete yet but looks like the real deal. That's a great question. I probably could mention a few guys and do a whole segment on it. Maybe we will at some point in the future. Let me go with two names. They're both American League guys. It just happens to be that way. One's really close, and one's getting closer. The really close one, he had an issue last year with PEDs, and he served a suspension. But besides that, he's got great stuff. He's kind of lights out dominating, and I think he's going to be in the big leagues this year at some point. He's in the Houston Astros organization. Some may know him, some may not. He goes by the name of Forrest Whitley. He's got great stuff, makes people look bad. He's got very solid mechanics, and all the scouts and baseball know-it-alls, if you will, rave about him, and probably could be in the big leagues right now. So Forrest Whitley, and I'll give you a bonus one if I can. And he recently made the news. He threw a no-hitter for the Double-A in the Tigers organization, number one pick in the draft. And you're not the number one pick in the draft by accident, okay, usually, and that's Casey Mize. He too, he, played at college, so he's got that extra experience. He's got great stuff, mature, past his age, and he's one of those guys, he's going to get to the big leagues. It's just when and whatnot. So those are my two picks. It's a great question by Mike from Instagram. Two pitchers not right now in the big leagues that may be the next real deal pitchers. So I'm going to go with Forrest Whitley, Casey Mize. There are a lot of other guys out there. Like I said, I could have probably went and named 10 guys just off the top of my head without any research. But I'm going to go with those two as my first two. Okay, let's go to the second question. And this one, let's go to the other social media. Let's go to Twitter. This is from Sammy from Twitter. And I like this question. Put me on the spot with it. Put me on the hot seat, so to speak. And the question reads, John, what makes your podcast better or different than other sports card podcasts? I like this question. Gives me opportunity to speak on that kind of, you don't like to always talk about stuff like that, but when someone else asks, it allows you to answer. So let me say this, Sammy. First off, great question. I don't know if better is the word. We just try to do our own thing. I've said this before on the show. We listen to 4 or 5 other podcasts. Probably 2 or 3. We listen to every episode, and then others I listen a little more sporadically. I'm not going to mention them all. I've mentioned them before. Some, you can tell kind of which ones I like. I've had the hosts on the show or, tried to. So, there's a good 10 that I'm aware of, and probably more I'm not aware of. Sports card podcasts, if you will. I don't know if we're better. I just try to do the best show we can. How are we different? We just do our own thing. We don't really copy format, so to speak. I mean, a lot of the news portions and you report the same things, hot button topics and all that jazz. There's not a lot you can do there. That's kind of the same. But, one thing I've said, even with the interview guests we have on, I don't put time constraints on them. As long as we go, we kind of go until it winds down. If someone's willing to donate their time to the program, I don't cut them short. I don't tell them wrap it up or that's enough. And I'll never intentionally do that. So maybe that's sets us apart a little bit. If you listen to the show, I talk about sports a good, there's a section of from the box seats, we call it, which is all sports related, and some of the other shows may not do that. I do it because I believe if you're into the hobby and then into the cards, just as well as I do what happens on that court, that ice, that baseball or football field directly affects the value of cards. Performance, it's like a stock, great performance is going to most likely increase value of cards, whether it's rookies or inserts or special, whatever the case may be. It's a direct correlation. So to ignore the sports aspect of the sports card hobby, I choose not to do that. Maybe some other shows don't focus on it, and I'll stick up for them. Maybe it's just because they're in time constraints. That's the other thing. I don't put a time constraint on the whole show. We may have a podcast that's 50 minutes, and we had one a few episodes back that passed the 2-hour mark, which is a long show. But I don't go into any show saying we've got to finish under an hour and a half or we got to finish at an hour. I don't do that. If you look at the times of all 26 episodes so far, you'll see they're all different times. There's no one figure. So each show is its own fingerprint in itself. So yeah, maybe that sets us apart a little bit. There's really no shtick. I may play some sound bites and the opening and stuff like that, but I'm not a whole lot of shtick. There's no lot of shock value. I make a point not to swear, and I'll tell you why. I'm not going to lie to you. I swear when I'm not recording the show. I think most people do. But on the show, kids are very important. If you've listened to the show long enough, it's sort of a focal point. I care about the future of this hobby, and who is the future of this hobby? It's not me and older guys, right? We're gonna fade out. Okay, it's that next young group of younger generation kids, and kids are the future of this hobby. I want kids to listen to the show, but I also don't want them to hear bad words. Not that they don't hear it somewhere else, but that's not what we're gonna represent as a show. I've had Brody the Kid, 11 years old, on. So I want this show to be for everyone. I don't even want to exclude anybody if I don't have to. You'll never hear me say, this isn't for you necessarily. It may not be, but I'm not going to say that. We welcome everyone. We want to be a community show, a hobby community. The hobby is a community, and so we want to welcome everyone in. I'm hearing the term lately about gated hobby community. We don't want any gates. Everyone's welcome in. We're going to try not to swear. I don't being a salesman all the time either. Not saying that we haven't had guests on that promote a business. We have sponsors. That's true. But I don't want to be a show, hey, tonight we're running these breaks and get in now. I want the show to be about content, not to just be an infomercial for any product I'm selling. Again, we have sponsors. We'll have people on as guests that are selling a product or an event or an exhibit or what have you. Okay, I get that. But I don't want the show to basically be a sales pitch for what we got coming on later tonight. Okay, that's an infomercial. We're not going to be an infomercial. We want to be interactive. That's why we have this segment right here called Wide Open, where you can ask questions and we answer them. We want to do giveaways where we give away free cards. You don't even have to pay shipping. Go to your mailbox and get your free cards or whatever you want. We care about people's opinion. We're a structured show. We don't just release a show whenever we feel like it. When you go home at night, and if you're a nightly news person, at 6:30 the nightly news comes on after your local news. Well, Sports Card Nation podcast comes out every Friday morning. That's what we want to be. In 7 months, we've missed one Friday around the Christmas holiday. It's a pretty good track record. And quite frankly, I'm proud of that fact. Friday mornings, a new show. Try to accentuate some of the positives of the hobby. Have people on that are doing good things, charitable things. Bring a light to the hobby, not to get cheesy, but, really that's what it's about. So that's the angle we come from. We hope you enjoy that. If you don't, there's other shows that'll fit your mold, if you will. If you want that, nastiness and negativeness, there's shows out there that just press play on them and be happy and wallow in that, if you will. We're not gonna go there. We're filling a different sort of niche, if you will. And, I probably went on 2 minutes longer than I should have, but I actually liked the question, so I kind of rambled on. So there's a lot of podcasts, sports card related podcasts. I listen to others. You should too. You'll never hear me say we're the best, we're the only, we hope we're good. I know a lot of people are listening. I see the analytics report that I get from Anchor, and presently, I'm not going to give always out the numbers, but where we were from episode 1 to where we are now it's crazy, and we're thankful for that. We're appreciative of that. We don't take that fact at all for granted, and I just look at how many people are listening and I just say, we must be doing something right. Even if not everyone likes it, enough of you do when we're getting that many rotations, that many listens. So we're going to keep on keeping on. And for those that are with us, thank you. And if you're thinking about it, we hope you stay on board. So enough rambling. That's my 2 cents on the question. Again, thanks, Sammy from Twitter. For asking that one, a very good question. So again, we'll close out this portion. We call it wide open. If you have any questions you want answered, it could be hobby related, sports related, what my favorite food is, whatever you want to ask, as long as it's clean and not vulgar. And I'll pick 2 or 3 questions each week, and we'll get them on the air. Go to any of our social medias. Direct message me, public message me, what have you. If you go to Anchor, you can actually leave a voice question. We haven't had anyone do that yet. That'd be cool if someone did. Hopefully this segment becomes kind of a weekly thing we all can look forward to. So with that being said, we'll wrap up wide open for this week. We love our listeners. We know without you, there's no us. We care about your feedback and opinions and invite you to reach out to us at any of our social media accounts. You can reach us on Instagram at Sports Card Nation Podcast. That's at Sports Card Nation Podcast. Or on Twitter at Sports Card Natty 1. That's Sports Card NATI 1. Or email us at sportscardnationpc@gmail.com. That's sportscardnationpc@gmail.com. We try not to ask for much, but if you are enjoying the show, we ask that you give us a shout out, tell your friends, spread the word, give us a follow on Instagram or Twitter, and we love positive reviews. So we'd appreciate if you took a minute and gave us a positive review on any platform you're listening to the show on. Thank you. All right, time to give away some Shohei Ohtanis. He's back and playing, just hitting right now. I think they're going to hold off on him pitching for a while. So we're going to give away 3 rookies from 2018. His Bowman rookie, his Diamond King batting rookie, number 76, and his Optic running variation rookie. So it's going to be a 3-card lot. Going to go to one person. Going to do it like we did the last giveaway. Going to give you that code word. Get that code word to us through any of our social medias. If you go to our website at bit.ly, bit.ly/SportsCardNationPC. If you go to our website, either on the live chat or message board, type in the code word, I'll give you 2 entries. So get an extra entry by going to the Sports Card Nation podcast website at bit.ly/SportsCardNationPC. And that code word is dual. D-U-A-L, dual. So either on any of our social medias, let us know the code word dual, or if you go to a website, let us know there. We'll give you 2 entries. We'll put all the correct entrants on the on a list, randomize it, and who's ever in that top spot after the dice roll is going to win 3 free Shohei Ohtani rookies from 2018. Postage paid to your door. So good luck, everybody. For over 25 years, Newman Sports Cards has set the standard in customer service in the sports card industry, including same-day shipping. They've added supplies and some wax products to their already great arsenal of rookie cards, game-used cards, autos, and graded cards. Check their fully searchable website out by Googling Newman Sports Cards. It's the first thing that comes up. Click on that link. Or follow them on the social medias at Newman_sportscards at Instagram, or at Twitter at Nooms Sports Cards, or give them a call or text at 315-491-0239. It's time for From the Box Seat. All right, let's hit the world of sports. Let's start with the playoff series going on in both basketball and hockey. San Jose with a 2-1 lead over the Blues. The Bruins out quick to a 3-0 lead over the Carolina Hurricanes and a lead tonight. So they're on the verge of sweeping and waiting for the Western Conference winner in the Stanley Cup Finals. Right now, the Bruins look like the real deal. On the basketball side, we got Milwaukee with an early 1-game lead after the first game over the Raptors, and Golden State up 1-0 on Portland and winning Game 2. So, again, I don't think anyone's stopping Golden State, and we'll see who comes out of the East to try to stop them. The New York Jets are a mess. They fired their GM, Mike McCagnon, but they let him spend $20 million in free agency, or more than that, I think, signing numerous guys. And then they let him run the draft, and then they fired him. And if that wasn't bad enough, guess who the new GM, although he has an interim tag, the new GM is Crazy Eyes Gase. And this one is a head scratcher. I don't know what Adam Gase did in Miami to warrant full control of the Jets. And so I don't know what the Johnson family's doing here. You know, just when it looked like the Jets were kind of turning the corner to do something and be a player, and maybe make a playoff run and maybe even challenge the Patriots in that AFC East, this happened. So just when you thought it was safe to take the bag off your head, Jet fans, don't throw it away just yet. Sticking to football, Patrick Peterson just got handed a 6-game PED suspension. Kind of a Patrick Peterson fan. This one's a little surprising and disappointing. So he'll miss a third of the football year. And so not a real good week if you're an Arizona sports fan. You got the Peterson thing. You got the whole, they didn't get the number 1 pick in the NBA draft. You got Zach Greinke on the DL. So, and really every Arizona sport, some real bad news, depending on how you view it. They didn't do a great job in the NFL draft, so probably not the greatest time to be an Arizona sports fan. Speaking of the NBA, the NBA draft lottery took place, and the Knicks could not even win the offseason. So they do get the number 3 pick, which I know a lot of people say that, they lost out, and yeah, they did probably lose out on the Zion Williamson sweepstakes. But at the 3 spot, they're probably going to wind up with R.J. Barrett, who in a lot of people's minds is one of the best players in this draft. And in any other year where you wouldn't have a transcendent player like Zion, probably would be the number 1 overall pick. So not a complete fail on the Knicks' part. They'll probably wind up with Barrett, and Ja Morant will probably go to the Grizzlies. So there was talk that Zion would return to Duke if he didn't like who got that number 1 pick, but his dad has been on the record as saying he's going to the NBA regardless of who has that number 1 pick. So looks like barring any kind of crazy trade, Williamson's going to be a Pelican. I don't know if that changes the Anthony Davis dynamic. I still think AD winds up somewhere else. But, they could rebuild rather quickly with an AD trade and then adding Williamson to whatever they get, or a bunch of draft picks in the next couple of years. So we'll see how that shakes out. Major League Baseball. It's, we broached the subject a few times on the show today. It's the youth explosion in Major League Baseball. It's the year of the rookies, and we've just really started. You got Austin Riley just recently called up, and you heard on the show earlier, first game, second at bat, he went yard. You got Vladimir Guerrero finally looking like he's breaking out of his funk, and you got the Keston Hiura getting called up in Milwaukee, and Brendan Rodgers is about to get called up in Colorado, and there'll be more to follow. So, if you're an old player in the Major League Baseball, I'd start to worry as some of these young guys come up and start to take starting roles. That the writing's on the wall if you're one of the older veterans. So. A lot of young guns making an impact rather quickly at early ages, 19, 20, 21, 22. You got Eloy Jimenez up and playing, Fernando Tatis Jr., Pete Alonso, and this trend continues. So I expect a lot of other guys to get called up and to get some ample playing time. And it's like I said, it's really exciting time for sports. With a lot of these rookie classes in all the sports, and it's definitely an exciting time in the card industry because these products are going to be fun to open and buy and buy some of these cards that we speculate on. So that's it for sports. The Sports Card Nation podcast website has been revamped. It's more interactive with a live chat feature. Also has forums and message boards. And now the front page has upcoming podcast news and events and also a yearly release trading card calendar. So you know what's coming out when, so you can target your next purchase. And we've made it very easy to get to. Just type in bit.ly/SportsCardNationPC. That's bit.ly/SportsCardNationPC. Well, that does it for our Sports Card Nation podcast episode 26. As always, let us take some time here. We want to thank you for listening to the show, whether it's your first listen or your 26th, or more or less, it doesn't matter. You give us your time. We are appreciative of that fact. There are a lot of other things you could be doing, but here you are with us, and we appreciate it sincerely. I want to thank Stu Stone for joining the program. If you haven't seen his movie, Jack of All Trades, don't waste any time. That's a great flick. You can get it at any place you can stream movies. Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime. Again, I know it's a movie centered around baseball cards, but it's more to it than that. And even if it was just baseball cards, it's still a great movie, but it's a lot more complex than that, and that's what makes the movie as brilliant as it is. So, he mentioned he'll come back on again once the movie's been out a while, where he can speak more to the specifics than he did today, and I really appreciate him giving us as much time as he did. That was really cool, and we appreciate it. And speaking of interview guests, we've got some really good ones lined up. That was the goal when we started this show, to give you great content. We got some great interview guests coming up, and one thing I know I've said, I don't say it all the time, but I always tell my interview guests, I don't put any time constraints. As long as we can go and it's interesting convo, I don't limit it to 30 minutes, 20 minutes. I don't have anyone, a producer, telling me to cut or that's it. So if someone's willing to give their time and give you great content, I'm not going to put any stipulations on it. So some interviews, are 20 minutes, 30 minutes, some are 50. And I think that's what's refreshing, is that you don't, you just go as long as you go, and the conversation goes where it goes, and I don't put things in a box and we only have 30 minutes, hurry up, or rush people, or tell people that's all they can say. So I'll never do that as long as I have creative powers over what we do here, which I do. And so interviews are going to be as long as the guests want to spend their time and share their time. And I appreciate it. I believe you do too. We got some great guests upcoming, lined up. So, stay tuned. The future episodes are going to be jam-packed and full of great content and with great guests. So stay tuned. We got a lot of nice stuff coming up the works. It's a great time to be in the hobby, too. Got a lot of young talent, a lot of influx of young players, potential superstars in baseball, in basketball, and even football. Hockey, you got a draft upcoming in hockey where American Jack Hughes is supposed to be the first pick, and Kopo Kako, the second pick, he's supposed to be can't miss. So, in all four major sports, we've got a lot of youth movement, young guys kind of taking over, taking the spotlight, performing well, and that just bodes well for the future of the hobby. And it's a good time if you're already in the hobby. It's a good time to be in it. And if you're thinking about jumping in the pool, now's a great time as well. So like my good friend Billy Joel always says, don't take any crap from anyone. We'll see you in 7 days. Thanks, everybody.
You've been listening to the Sports Card Nation podcast. Join host John Newman next week as he gives you another jam-packed episode of all things related to the sports card hobby. And a little extra fun, too. Don't forget to check out the show on Instagram at Sports Card Nation Podcast.